Playing music for me gave me my own identity. It was ownership. It was like freedom for me. And as a kid, you realize, hey, I can be good at this. I started playing music when I was in 7th grade. I got in trouble in another class, and I ended up getting put into band class. And the counselor was like, if you don't make it there, we got to kick you out. And I'm like, wow, I got to make it. Growing up in inner city Los Angeles, it was a tough neighborhood. In the 90s, there was a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs. A lot of the kids at the school, that's what they admired. When I started playing music, my band director, he let us in at lunch. So lunchtime now became practice time. So it did give me an escape, an outlet. And then looking further into high school, it gave me the option to not have to stay in the neighborhood. I could go to a music academy or music magnet, which I did. In high school, I transitioned from saxophone to tuba, and I was reluctant to do it, but I had a teacher, Dan Taguchi. He said, one day you're gonna thank me for this, because everybody's gonna want you to play tuba, Erick, trust me. If you look 10 years later to when I was at school here at APU, I got a full ride scholarship for playing tuba for my master's degree. So his push to keep me on tuba really paid off. Well, leaving high school, I attended Pasadena City College, and my goal was to be a band director. But there was a lot missing in my educational background. So I didn't reach my goals at Pasadena City College. And that's when I joined the Air Force. I was a mechanic for about 6 years. I was an aircraft mechanic, and then I transitioned jobs. I auditioned for the band and got into the band. That was an amazing experience. I traveled the world and served my country using the skill that has given me so much throughout life. After September 11th, I served for 4 years, like active duty, and then it was a reserve job. But when my son was born, I needed to go back to school. A friend of mine, Alan Valladares, he's like, hey, look into APU, man. They offer scholarships sometimes. I came in and auditioned. The professor was like, yeah, we want you to come to school here, Dr. Gray. And the process just worked out perfectly. I would say the professors were a big impact for me here at the school. Dr. Claire Federuk in our music history courses, she really was detailed about the human elements of these composers. Many years later, when I have to talk to the kids, especially like in LA, where they don't have a connection to, say, Johann Sebastian Bach or Beethoven, right? Beethoven was deaf. He had these issues with his father, and sometimes kids can connect with those things. So, I learned so much from her, and I can't leave out the fact that I learned so much about my faith and the meaning of faith. It really helped establish who I am. I got my first job at Hollenbeck Middle School in Boyle Heights. I remember walking into the room, and there was about 50 students in the class. I opened up instruments, and I started quickly realizing that there was nothing there that was like really working. Teaching at Hollenbeck was not tough because of the students or the community. It was tough because the resources go to so many different places, right? So here comes my maintenance background. I started figuring out how to fix some of the instruments myself. My friend Tony White came one day, and then he walked over to a saxophone that was kind of held together by several paper clips instead of screws. And he's like, dude, do you need instruments? And I was like, yeah. He told me about an organization called the Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation, which offers grants for instruments. So I applied, and then these folks came down to look at the program. Trisha Steele, who was in charge of the program, she's like, you need a lot. And I'm like, yeah, we do. They gave us a $70,000 grant that year. The following year, they approached me again and said, hey, we don't normally do this, but you really needed a lot, and you have a good program. And they gave us another $70,000, which was their max. And it was a huge benefit to the community, a big source of pride. I was in that community those 7 years, and then when the high school teacher, which was literally across the street, decided that he was gonna step away from the high school program after 30 years of being there, he said, I don't wanna go unless you take over the program at Roosevelt High School. And that was right after COVID. I took the position, and what was incredible about teaching at Roosevelt High School was that I had students before the pandemic that we didn't finish their 8th grade year, and now they were my students at high school. So having been their teacher for 6-7 years really made it special. The community has a thriving music program now and a music academy. I was able to arm the students with great musical skills because I had a good musical training here at APU. Helping to give that to the students is what made them a highlight to the community. I felt very sad leaving, but it was time to move on. I always said that when that time comes that you want me somewhere else, you'll let me know. And 10 years later, here I am in Glendora. I always felt like, hey, if I ever do anything with my life, I want to make sure that I do something for others. My teachers were a big influence to me. And then joining the military was really about service, and so teaching became that way. I hope to serve the community. I hope to bring them to where they want to be.